life's miracles. But I often think we get too consumed with life to even notice the glory that is around us. And this miracle came in a simple question. This elderly woman seemed to retreat within herself and then open her eyes and look at me to stop me from talking. She raised her hand and she said, "Would you please tell me something? If I decide to fight this case, will it help other people?" I looked at her and I said, "Well, I don't know if you heard me, but I said we maybe have a 5 or 10% chance of winning a case like this, and I need to explain to you more of the process, but eventually if we do decide to fight and win, it'll set something called a precedent, and yes, we could use that." And she put up her hand to shut me up again, and she had heard that word yes, and she closed her eyes tight, and almost as if she was grasping those three-letter words, she grasped it in her hand and slammed it on the table in a fist. She opened her eyes and she looked as if she was possessed. And she pushed her chair back and she stood up. She looked at me hard and then waved her finger and she simply said, 5 or 10% is enough for me. And she strode right out of the room. I was in awe, sort of looking at her, and then I stood and stared next to the lawyer who was next to me. We both stared at each other for a while until I realized I had to give the woman a ride home, and so I chased after her, put her in the car, and I'm telling you, I worked for the next 3 days harder than I'd ever did, trying to do everything I could to prepare for our first preliminary hearing. I was going to win this case and fight with this woman. And I tell you, I did everything you can imagine. I even called Johnny Cochran, God rest his soul, he didn't return my calls. On the 4th morning, I got a call from an amazing person who told me, you need to slow down. I said, "What? I got work to do. You need to slow down." I go, "What? I have some bad news for you." And I said, "What is it?" And they said, "Well, last night your client had a heart attack and died." I remember slamming down the phone and feeling like I was ready to cuss like a sailor, to explode in anger and rage. But then I suddenly realized in my arrogance, I thought God had put the great Cory Booker there for my client. But in reality, God had put this great client there for the poor Cory Booker. You see, this is what life affords you in every moment. Simple choice. To accept things as they are, or take responsibility for changing them. If you choose change, it's not a one-time thing, a once-a-month thing. It's not a grand career to pursue for the next 15 or 20 years of your life. It starts right now. It starts in those small things that most people might not notice, the smiling at somebody and giving them your smile because they don't have one of their own. It means extending small acts of kindness because in their aggregate, they are great things. In fact, the greatest thing you could do almost every day is a small act of kindness.